Grüezi miteinander, bonjour à tous, dzień dobry Państwu. On behalf of the Polish Swiss Chamber of Commerce and SII, I wish you a very warm welcome to this webinar on nearshoring to Poland. My name is Oli Schwendimann. I'm the Managing Director of the Polish Swiss Chamber of Commerce, and I have the pleasure to guide you through this meeting, through this webinar. On the screen, you see now the program for today, or hopefully you have a good connection, there is no technical issues, and you see that we are having three panels, which allows us to gain three different perspectives on the topic of this meeting. And before we start, let me give you two organizational information. One is that on your screen, on the right-hand side at the bottom, you should have a button called Ask Questions, and this is important because this is the possibility to ask questions to the speakers later at this meeting. The second information is that we are very keen on having your feedback on this webinar, and so after the first panel there will be the possibility to fill out, and it will be our request to you to fill out this survey. It's just 2-3 questions, anonymous, voluntary, so it should be no problem. A question of 10 seconds. And now we are ready with this organizational stuff and should be ready to start with the meeting. And we're just waiting for Michał Stępień, President of the Polish Swiss Chamber of Commerce and Country Head of UBS Poland, to have a short welcome speech.
Okay, thank you very much, Oli. Welcome everybody, and many thanks for having me here today. It's been a challenge to join the conference, but that's we all struggle to join virtual meetings from time to time, and I'm really glad that I made it. And I really wanted to warmly welcome all the participants, all the panelists, and in particular I wanted to extend my thanks to the institutional partners who really put a lot of work to make this conference happen. Embassy of the Republic of Poland in Bern, Swiss Business Hub Central Europe, Chamber of Commerce Switzerland Central Europe, and Switzerland Global Enterprise. And of course to SII, our partner organizing the conference. And a very personal note from my side is that the nearshoring in Poland is important and is significant, and it's gaining significance. And I would say my role also emphasizes that. Predominantly, I'm based in Krakow, and my daily care of almost 7,000 people working for business solution centers for UBS in Poland. And last year I have been elected president of the Swiss Chamber in Poland. So that fact alone also speaks volumes for the importance of that business to the Polish economy, and not only to the Polish economy, but also to the Swiss economy. So that's really a great link between Poland and Switzerland, how we cooperate, how we build a sustainable platform for the future of economy in the modern economy and the new reality of the modern economy. And that the pandemic, which has been mentioned several times, also brought a new dimension to the nearshoring, outsourcing, shared services in our organizations. And we see that although the pandemic put us apart, it also made a world closer. So we closer cooperate with some of the colleagues, which we have normally not done because of the new technologies that enable that to us, and that's fantastic. So the travel has stopped, and it will return one day, I'm sure of that. But all the organizations, and especially the organizations that do offshoring, nearshoring, outsourcing, have embraced that new reality. We're ready for that, immediately ready for that new reality. and seamlessly move to this world of the virtual meetings and virtual service processing, which will stay for us longer. But I agree with one of the panelists, I believe Kasia, is that we miss the human touch. We really humans are social beings, and we one day will meet again. But the world will be different, and the nearshoring will play really a significant role in shaping the economy of the future. So many thanks again for having me, and I count that you will really have good discussions. Thank you very much, Uli. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Michał. Thank you for your personal note and welcome and outlook. We are starting now with the first panel. The first panel is about Poland as a nearshoring location. And of course, in a wider context, it's about the factors, the impact in the choice of a location. And let me now introduce the speakers for this panel. I will start with Katarzyna Józefowicz. Katarzyna is Managing Director of Credit Suisse in Wrocław. She is also Head of Group Operations in Poland and President of the legal entity of Credit Suisse. Moving from Wrocław to Kraków, we welcome Paweł Fabryczewski. Paweł is Head of Procure-to-Pay Delivery at Global Business Services Center in Kraków. And now moving from Kraków to Warsaw, where, by the way, this webinar is being produced now, we welcome Martin Geyer. Martin is Head of Global Business Solutions Warsaw. Martin has been living and working in Warsaw since 2018. So welcome to all of you. And the first question goes to Katarzyna for obvious reasons, because Credit Suisse is one of the pioneers in Poland. That was back in 2007. And since then, Credit Suisse has on many occasions reconfirmed this initial decision to invest in Poland by enlarging the operations. And that gives me two questions to you. What was the reason for a Swiss bank to invest in Poland when it was not obvious? And the second question is, what has changed in terms of investment climate in the course of the last 14 years?
Good morning, everybody. I would like to say mentioning that Credit Suisse has now 1,700 employees in 2 locations in 5 years, while in Wrocław we will be our 15th anniversary next year. Experience in this market and also commitment to this market. Credit Suisse was practicing factors, the same factors which play important other companies. So first of all, let's start with location. Geographical proximity is important. There is a easiness to access to Poland. We are in the same time zone. There are no borders. There are good connections to Poland by plane or by road. I think that the size of Poland and also the distribution of the population played important role. Poland is relatively large. With 38 million of inhabitants, it's the 9th largest country in European Union. And also in Poland, unlike in some neighboring countries, like for example Czech and for example Hungary, the concentration of the population in the capital is not really there. And we have, I would say, around 8 to 9 tier 1 cities where the centers can be located. The fact that Poland is member of European Union is important, therefore has to adhere to European laws. We also have a very well-skilled workforce education. We have around 1.2 million students currently in Poland, which basically transfers to around 300,000 graduates every year. That's on top of this, we have a good knowledge of languages. So students, for example, they declare 97% of them declare knowledge of English, and 21% declare knowledge of German. But in certain locations, like for example Wrocław, because of its historical ties to Germany, this knowledge of German language is 46% among students. And generally across the old population, also the, let's say, working population 25 to 60 67% of them declare knowledge of a foreign language. A very important factor is also the cost benefit or difference between the Western Europe and Poland. And here the benefit can be as high as 50 to even 80% of benefit of the which you get when you transfer from the role from Western Europe to location. I think also we have a good infrastructure which is improving, not only in terms of the road, but general infrastructure. And the best proof of this was actually recently, like 1 year ago, when the pandemic started. In Poland, in our industry, in shared services, we transferred to the remote working in 5 days. And that was transferred to 99%, 95 to 99%. And that happened without any problem with internet or power supply or basically really anything. And we are all doing all kind of business continuity tests, but I can tell you we never did this kind of test, like transferring the whole population to remote working. So it was a new thing for us and it worked really very, very well. We can be really proud of this. I think also it's an attractive place for foreigners, definitely becoming attractive place for foreigners. So, for example, in our industry, we have now 15% of foreign employees. 65% of them come from Ukraine, but they are followed by the large group of people from Spain, people from Italy, people from India, and so on. And I think with the time, Poland will continue to attract qualified employees from various regions. So I think all these factors played a very important role, and they obviously were reconfirmed by the fact that Credit Suisse decided to do the second investment in our Warsaw office.
Thank you very much, Katarzyna. Now let's go to ABB, to Kraków, and of course ABB has a long and rich tradition in Poland in terms of manufacturing, implementing solutions, selling. But still, the Global Business Services Center is a quite recent history. Is quite a new. It's just a few years that you are on the market, on the labor market too. And what were the reasons? This, of course, is a question to you, Paweł. What were the reasons for you to decide for Poland and for Kraków, given, and this is also important, I think, that in 2017 employers in Poland would indicate as their main problem the employees market, so the lack of workforce.
Thank you, Uli, for this question. Yes, we opened our Global Business Services Center in Kraków in 2017. However, ABB was already present here in Kraków for more than 2 decades. We established a Research and Development Center back in 1997, and later on it was followed by IT Delivery Center that we also created here on the local market. At the time when we were in this decision-making process where to locate our newly established, let's say, shared service center, we had already more than 850 talents working for us here in Kraków, more than 600 as IT professionals and also a lot of scientists. Over the last 2 decades, our employees made a huge commitment towards our organization. We also delivered a lot of very creative solutions, and also plenty of them are inventions and also patents that have been created here in Kraków. Our IT delivery center was and still is the biggest delivery center that we have at ABB, and actually vast majority of the global applications that are used in more than 100 countries by our employees and also by our customers are supported and also developed here in Kraków. So the choice was on the one hand very logical. Let's scale up operations that we have here in Kraków, but also we considered different options, different locations here in Eastern Europe. Speed was for us also the essence. So we really wanted to establish operations in other functions like finance, HR delivery, and also procurement logistics very soon. Therefore, access to the local market where we have plenty of very experienced shared service centers professionals, as well as Katarzyna said, access to a lot of young talents capable to speak in plenty of foreign languages was very important for us. Kraków, similarly to Wrocław, is actually closely connected to our headquarters in Switzerland. Actually, we are having plenty of plane connections, actually flight connections to Zurich a day. Therefore, we shouldn't also underestimate this factor. And also take into account the number of factories that we have across the globe, and also here in Europe, it is very important that our employees very quickly can meet up with our colleagues in different factories, in different locations here in Europe, as well as in different, let's say, global locations. So infrastructure, similar to Wrocław, very good infrastructure. Also better and better solutions and that are available for our expat communities, international schools that make this working environment even more active for colleagues coming also from other countries. So all in all, I believe that ABB made a very good decision. Currently, we are employing more than 200 highly talented professionals here in Kraków. We scaled up our operations to also further locations, and also we provide even broader portfolio of services to our customers within ABB Group. So that's, I believe, pretty much from my end. And of course, we believe that here in Kraków we can still grow and deliver even more sophisticated, more complex services that both our colleagues from other locations, our customers within ABB Group, as well as our partners like suppliers, as well as customers will benefit from.
Thank you, Paweł. We will come back to you in a second round, of course. And now let's go to Martin. Martin Six is also a newcomer in Poland compared, of course, to Credit Suisse. And I think you started also in 2017. And could you say what were the biggest challenges you were facing at that time? And where do you see now the biggest advantages in being here in Poland, in Warsaw?
Thank you. Yeah, guten Morgen miteinander. Good morning. I think the biggest challenges we had at the beginning was first, let's say, to find the right and the optimal operation model. So there was a lot of discussions in what direction do we go? Do we have a managed service? Do we have an extended workbench? So that was, I would say, the first discussions we had. And then the next challenge we had is to train our management and also our colleagues in Switzerland how to collaborate with people in Warsaw, with teams that we have here, just to see that we have the right organizational and collaboration set up. Another challenge we had is to find the right management team also here in Warsaw to make sure that all the required legal and labor law processes are properly implemented. And but I have to say this is, I would not consider them really as a challenge, because we had very good examples how to do it. In the beginning, we made a lot of reference visits. So we also visited our colleagues from Credit Suisse, from UBS, to see how they did it. Maybe you know, so Credit Suisse, UBS are our biggest shareholders from SIX. So for us, it was really a good example how they did it, and we could get a lot from their experience, how to do it. The main or the biggest advantage mentioned already by my other colleagues, but I would say, as it was mentioned, the skilled people we have, the good language, everybody speaks well English, lot speak German. It's very important for us as well. The fantastic labor law arbitrage that we have, that gives also the possibility to our units in Switzerland, but also globally, to optimize their processes, their cost situation as well. We have the possibility to centralize work processes in a single spot in Europe. And what is also the closeness to Switzerland. I mean, really, you can get the flight in the morning. You can meet your people. You can, if you like, you can even travel back in the evening. And I think that's would say that's the main advantages that we have.
Thank you. So now I think we have all the big picture of the three companies, the three different experiences that have been made. Now for the beginning, I would like to ask you to ask questions to our panelists. We will take them up, perhaps not all, but hopefully as much as possible. But now for the time being, I would go back to Wrocław, to Katarzyna, and ask about let's say on a more daily level, that I know you have from time to time you have Swiss people coming to Wrocław, and so what is their experience of Swiss professionals that when they find themselves in a country which is very nice, of course, but they don't understand the language, and it's something which they didn't had contact before, and perhaps more general, what is the impact of cultural differences on communication and cooperation or output, perhaps even?
Well, as to the language, Uli, I think you are the best example how you can master Polish language and how fluent you are, almost, I would say, native level. But jokes apart, I think that Swiss people who come to Poland generally feel pretty well here. Sometimes they even start families here and they decide to stay for longer. We have cases like this. I need to say that the growth of Credit Suisse would not be possible without senior Swiss managers who came to Poland at the beginning of our center. And at that time, because the center, the way how it was built, you know, that we have 5,700 people, but actually the first few years were relatively slow. And at that time, thanks to these senior Swiss managers, who very often guaranteed the quality of the service and the whole viability of the whole project, the whole idea with their name, with their personal credibility. So thanks to them, we are where we are currently. The communication generally in English, I don't think it's a problem right now, especially and also in the cities. In the office, we don't use Polish language. It's not a requirement. So English is generally communication language. Global communication typically takes place in 4 languages. Again, English is main, but in English is main, always German, Italian, and French version. As to the German language, historically, our center was originally servicing Swiss clients. And because of this reason, at the beginning, German language was really required, and even now, I would say 80% of our population speaks and very often fluent German because they studied in Germany. Again, because of the proximity and ties that Wrocław has with the Germany. As to the cultural differences, we have program which unfortunately did not happen last year because of pandemics, But every year we invite young Swiss talents, and we have two programs. One takes 12 months, one takes 6 weeks. And these are people who graduated from Swiss apprenticeship program. And the latter group for 6 weeks, these are people who actually are still in the program. They are in their 5th semester. And with these people, I did a special list of do's and don'ts in Poland. They were helping me to do it. And our conclusion was that there are not that many don'ts in Poland. Actually, that means the other way around, the list is longer. So I think that this is relatively similar. I don't think that much of the differences culturally. I don't think we are that far away. One thing, for example, which both nations have in common is a very realistic outlook or slightly pessimistic outlook. And I often remind our employees that they should sound more optimistic about things, because there are also nations which are very optimistic, and it just looks better. But actually, I think that this communication between Polish people and Swiss people is very good in this respect. I also would like to say that on a daily basis, we try to promote Switzerland in our organization. So, for example, we are celebrating Swiss Independence Day every year, and we organize kind of quizzes for employees about certain fun facts about Switzerland, or historical facts, or all kind of trivia that you can find. So we try to popularize this idea. We cooperate, of course, also very closely with Swiss Embassy and Swiss Chamber of Commerce. Summarizing, I think that in Poland we have this unique combination. You pretty much have everything what's available in the Western Europe, so there's not much of difference. And in the same time, in many aspects, you have Eastern cost structure. So certain things in Poland are still relatively, I would say, cheap or much cheaper. That includes cost of dining out, cost of certain sports, housing, travel, and many services. So I think it's a good place, and it's welcoming to all the foreigners, and it's especially welcoming to our Swiss colleagues.
Very much, Katarzyna. Hopefully, I'm very curious about these do's and don'ts you made for the Swiss people that came to Wrocław, but I will come back to this later bilaterally. And of course, the other way, as you mentioned, there may be even more don'ts when you go as a Pole to Switzerland. Now, talking about multinational organizations, of course, ABB is also one of them. And I have learned that in Kraków, in your center, you have even 20% non-Poles, which is above the average in the industry. The average in the industry is 12% or 13%, at least, if I'm not mistaken. And how do you do it on a practical level? To build an ABB identity when your workforce is so big, so young, and so diverse. What is your experience on that? And the second question is about, I mean, a little bit we touched upon, Katarzyna already touched upon this. How would you consider Poles? Are they open towards working in multicultural organizations, or does it depend?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, we have more than 40 nationalities working here in our offices for ABB, and we have colleagues actually from each and every continent. You know, not only our, let's say, neighbors, not only colleagues from Europe, but also from such remote places like South America. We have colleagues from Peru, Brazil, Argentina. We have colleagues from also such remote places like New Zealand here, you know, which makes our culture here very unique, very vibrant, and actually this is a perfect place to work. How to build ABB identity in such a diverse environment. Actually, it starts, and it is actually it is actually embedded in our entire employee journey. It starts from the very beginning in the way how we attract talents, how we go through the candidates selection process, and later on how we onboard and make them grow within our organization. Of course, we help candidates also from other countries to be here in Poland. We help them to solve all of those kind of logistics-related and legal-related issues that they might have, especially at the very beginning of working here with us. When you join ABB, there you will get your mentor, you will get also your onboarding buddy, and this is also very helpful for our colleagues, not only here from Kraków, but also for our expat community working here for us. So we have plenty of initiatives that are helping us to foster this multicultural awareness and environment. Some of them are top-down, that we try to encourage our employees to work closer together, to get each other better. But I'm very happy also to say that there are plenty of bottom-up initiatives that our colleagues organize for themselves. And this is a great experience to see how we jointly interact together. There are plenty of benefits of having such a vibrant, such a diverse environment. And of course, I could talk about benefits for the company, but let's maybe focus on benefits for our employees. And actually, they can interact with each other. They can learn different habits, customs, different perspectives that our, let's say, colleagues from other countries might have. They can broaden their horizons and also improve their overall capabilities. To answer your second question around Poland and Poles as members of this global environment, I believe that we have changed a lot over the last 20, 30 years. You know, we are much more exposed to different cultures. We travel a lot. We study in various countries. We work also in very international settings. So I believe that we are much different than we used to be, let's say, just after, let's say, the breakthrough at the beginning of 90s. So we have a lot of international friends. There is a stronger and stronger expat community here in Poland, and I believe it also had a profound impact on the way how we interact with each other. So I believe that Poles are very open and open-minded and like working and interacting with colleagues that are working here with us from other cultures, from other countries.
Thank you, Paweł, for your insights. And now let's go to Martin and change the question slightly. Because when you started, I mean, one of your main task was to attract and, of course, maintain the people you want. And I guess you need qualified and motivated people. So what is, and for the companies in your sector, in the shared business service sector, employer branding is a key factor. So the better you are in employer branding, the better you are in maintaining and attracting people. What is your experience concerning employer branding, and do you use Swissness as an additional argument why somebody should work for you for SIX?
Yes, I would consider that as one of the biggest advantage that we have as a Swiss company to offer here opportunities for young talents. I mean, this is really one of the major things also for the branding. I think I see it every time when we make recruiting and I look back, why was the decision to come to work for our company? I think being a Swiss company, having interesting work, very well integrated in the teams. I have to say our teams are 95% mixed team with Switzerland people or people from Switzerland or even globally. So they are totally integrated teams, and also this interesting work, end-to-end responsibility, And I would also consider the fantastic, let's say, spirit we have in our company, the company values. I think that makes a decision for the people quite easy. I think this is something we experienced, and I feel still the Swiss brand, this is a huge advantage, and yes, we use that. And I also want to mention these cultural differences. I'm working here now since 3 years, and let me tell you, from a Swiss point of view, I don't feel we have cultural differences. I mean, these people today, the younger generations, they are so globally. I mean, we have so many people in our organization now here. They visited a lot Switzerland. We have even people, they lived in Switzerland. They communicate with Swiss people. So for them, we don't have cultural differences anymore. I would say that. So this was maybe in the beginning, we thought about that. Yes, we do some training, we mention certain things, but today this is not at all, and people appreciate that, working from Switzerland with Polish people, but also the other way around. They embrace each other. So it's just a very nice working environment, and this attracts the people, the employees, the colleagues. They talk to each other, and this is also important, I think, in Poland. I mean, people communicate to each other, they look in the internet, what is this company, what do other employees say, do they have any awards or whatever, and this helps a lot.
Martin, thank you very much for this frank and positive view on Poles, on the environment you're living in. I see now that we got a question to Katarzyna. How do you assess the personal's turnover and retention situation in Poland?
You know, I think that in the last 1 year, the situation has changed quite significantly, but I think temporarily. That is because of the pandemic situation. But overall, Poland, the moment when we were coming to to invest in Wrocław, and now these are almost two different places. Unemployment rate in 2007 was at 11.2% in Poland. Currently, unemployment rate in Poland is at 3.1, and it's either the lowest in Europe or second lowest after Czech. I think these two countries are on the very low level. So there are pressures, and also the whole shared services industry is booming, is growing, and for this reason, every newcomer who is coming, they typically eye for a market leader. We are market leader in Wrocław, in our space, so our people are our punch, and I think that sometimes it's good for them. We do focus on the retention. We look at the various benefits that the market is offering. We constantly compare ourselves in terms of the pay that we are offering to our employees, and we try to create as good atmosphere at work as it's possible. Again, we are focusing on diversity, on inclusion. We try to be a LGBT-friendly company. We have employee networks, women network, LGBT plus network, foreigners network. All these networks do a wonderful job, and we try to be very, very inclusive. But in terms of the attrition, certain attrition will always exist. I think it's desirable. In the end of the day, it creates a pool of the qualified employees which is available to everybody. We also have a number of employees who used to work in Credit Suisse. They went somewhere else. After a few years, they are coming back. So I think that generally that's part of life, part of the market. Specific for Poland or for this type of the industry that we are in is that population. The average age at the moment in Credit Suisse is 31 years old. And it's quite normal and natural that, especially for people who come straight from university, and we still have substantial percentage of such people, then it's quite normal that they have this social mobility. They will move to another city. They want to, even out of curiosity, to see what are life and work conditions somewhere else. So that's part of the demographics. We cannot be compared with countries like Switzerland or UK, where this attrition is generally much lower. But that is because of the nature of our industry, the huge number of opportunities that are in the market for our employees, and also their demographics, that they are young people and they want to.
Okay. Thank you, Katarzyna. But perhaps I would like to ask the same question to Paweł, because we just learned that, well, one thing is that the average age in Credit Suisse operations in Wrocław is 31. This is quite low. How is it in your case? And in general, would you confirm what Katarzyna just said about attrition rate and retention situation?
Yes, actually, it is very similar to our statistics. Currently, this is 32 years young, and it is on the one hand visible that it is a little bit growing, because we are already here as a global business services for 5 years, which means that colleagues that are staying longer with us also help us to improve the score. We have employees from different generations, from actually 4 different generations, which is also very interesting and create some, for me, very rewarding challenges to work with all of those different generations that we're having here. The other thing that I find extremely rewarding is the working on 2, for me, fundamental aspects to be successful as a company. On the one hand is customer experience, on the other is employee experience. And of course, this pressure from the market and expectation that we can see in the workforce are creating this need to really be very active when it comes to taking holistically entire employee experience. From the very beginning, before even someone considers joining ABB, then actually we stay in touch even with employees that decided to leave ABB at a certain point of time in their career. And what I see and what I really like also to experience is that colleagues are coming back to ABB later on, and also they bringing a new experience that they collected in other industries, in other companies, which is also helping us to be even more successful as the organization. So we have plenty of retention strategies. This is the topic that we very frequently not only discuss, brainstorm, ideate, but also we implement a lot of measures in order to ensure that this working environment that we create here is very attractive for our not only candidates but also employees that are already here with us. So that's maybe on this front, and actually we have a lot of good experience how to first of all mitigate retention risks, and also how to reduce the attrition rate within the organization. And actually it's not about mostly money, it is mostly about the way how we interact with our employees, about the positive leadership that we bring here, and of course how we consider different needs of different groups of our employees that we have in our organization. So different employees personas, we know, we identify them, and we see that there are even more and more that we had at the very beginning, and step by step we try to satisfy exactly the needs of various groups of our employees.
Thank you very much, Paweł. We still have a few minutes left, and we got a question to Martin, because SIX is servicing the Swiss Stock Exchange, and so data security is one of your major tasks, I think. And was this a challenge in Poland, or what is your view on that?
Let's say it's not a challenge, because what we do is every process, every role that we work out of Poland, of Warsaw, we first look into, we analyze it. Is there any access to data that is not allowed to go outside of Switzerland, be it the CID, be it customer data, any regulation, any contractual obligation that we cannot work out of Switzerland with that. So this is a well process that we have implemented, and with that it's very clear everything that can be worked out of Warsaw, then it's not a problem. There are parts we will not get out of Switzerland, but it is, even if it's Poland or another country, that doesn't matter. And yes, this is part of our, let's say, daily business when we plan transitions.
Much, Martin. I think our time is up, unfortunately, because there are, of course, other questions that could be or should be asked. Now I see that we have 2 minutes left, and this is why I have the pleasure to ask a question to Paweł, or to transmit a question. To what extent could the availability of modern office space determine the company's choice of the country or a particular city, and how important is it as a tool in recruiting talents?
When it comes to, if I understood your question correctly, so we have extremely modern office here in Krakow, and actually we could say that this is one of our unique sales propositions, but we don't want to consider it like this, because that needs to be one of the possibilities that we provide to our employees, but there needs to be much different actually aspects that we should provide to our candidates, to our employees, and finding our unique selling points as an employer was and is for us extremely important. And for me personally, one of the most important aspects is how can I ensure that colleagues that already are start working for us will have an excellent opportunity to grow, to develop their talents, to move to next roles and to the next level in their professional journey. And this is what I would strongly encourage than just having, let's say, modern, let's say, kind of office environment. I'm not sure if I only answered your question correctly.
I think so, as far as I understood well the question that was asked by by one of the attendees. But perhaps let's close this panel with the last question to Katarzyna. It's the same question. I mean, office space is, of course, since a year since the pandemic started, has a different value than it used to have before. But still, how important is it as a tool, as a perhaps not benefit, but how important it is for you in your communication with talents?
I think that this is important actually for they like to have certain facilities in the office, and they like certain modern look. But I think I need to ask question how this is going to look like after, because currently a company like ours is work 100% remotely. We could work 100% remotely, by the way. It's only that some people still prefer to go to office, including myself. After the pandemics, I'm quite sure that how we are approaching this will be very different. We are not yet 100% sure. This initiative in Credit Suisse, I'm sure also in other companies which are looking into, and there will be, I'm quite sure there will be kind of a higher, the office will have a new function, maybe more like a meeting together, build team, build relationship, kind of just purely working. Some of these processes, but they were accelerated, I think, by 15 years.
Many thanks to all of you for your willingness to share your experiences. Thank you, Paweł. Thank you, Katarzyna, and thank you, Martin.
Thank you for having us here.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now done, but just two information with the first panel. But just two information. One information is that the survey is already ready on the chat. You see it on the right-hand side at the top of your screen. So you can already fill it out. The second point is good news that we are now 150 attendees, participants of this meeting. So welcome to all of you, also to those who joined us during this meeting. And now we're having a break, 5 minutes. You will see on the screen a clock just counting. So you will see when you should be back in 5 minutes. So see you soon. Grüezi miteinander, bonjour à tous. Dzień dobry Państwu. Welcome back to the webinar on nearshoring to Poland. We are starting in a minute with the second panel. The second panel will be about benefits of building own shared service centers, and we will talk, of course, also about challenges that are being faced, about processes that can be transferred to another location, and we will also talk about the choice of particular cities in Poland. Let me introduce the panelists. We will start with Maciej Kulbat. Maciej is head of Barry Callebaut Shared Services Center in the city of Łódź, which is in central Poland. Welcome, Maciej.
Good morning.
We stay for a moment in Łódź because Tomasz Leśniewski, he also lives and works in Łódź. Tomasz is head of Clariant Shared Service Center and also president of the management board Clariant Poland. And then we move to...
Good morning.
Hi. Hello, Tomasz. And then we move to Kraków, where we meet Peter Michał. Peter works for ABB. He is head of the Global Business Services Kraków, and he also is operations leader responsible for finance operations in Europe. Peter is Irish, and he works and lives in Kraków, in Krakow.
Good to see.
Hi, Peter. And just one information, we have now an audience of 150 people that are with us. This is a good information, and so bearing this in mind, let's start with the panel. The first question goes to Maciej from Barry Callebaut. What was for me interesting to learn when I was told the history of Barry Callebaut in Łódź is that at the beginning the idea was just to locate in Łódź some basic finance functions, but then something happened. Another decision was taken because now Barry Callebaut is a multifunctional center operating with more than 400 people. And so the question to you is, what were the factors initially to delocate or to locate to Łódź? And the second question, what was then the reason to enlarge the operations?
Okay, so thank you, Uli. Maybe I will start answering why Poland. Before we actually opened the shared service center operations here in Łódź, we also actually the Barry Callebaut established the manufacturing plant here in Nowy Józefów in Łódź, which started actually 25 years ago. Last year was the 25th anniversary, and after the 20 years, there was a decision made that okay, maybe it's also good to leverage the whole city ecosystem, as we were quite experienced already for 20 years. How Poland is organized, what are the benefits of operating from Poland. Of course, at the beginning, it was quite, let's say, a small kernel where we were trying to place some transactional activities within the shared service center operations. But very quickly, we as an organization understood that we can do more. And when we look at the market, especially at the other organizations which are part of today's webinar, we suddenly realized that they are doing much more, and the things which they are doing are, let's say, much more advanced. Poland also, we decided to as a location, because I think Kasia mentioned that at the previous session, that it's close, it's simple. We need proximity to the business. We didn't want to create the organization that is, let's say, isolated, that is just focused on certain processes, but we need to make sure that we stay close to the business, we understand business, and it's just 2 hours away from Zurich. Pool of talent, the good cooperation that we experienced in the past years with the city hall, with the labor office, but also with the universities, gave us much more potential to extend the operations and to make sure that we can support Barry Callebaut Group. across different functions and different processes. Suddenly we also realized that it's not only about the regional support, but we can do certain things on a global scale. So we also move towards the global process management, where we actually today, from small kernel, grew up to the multifunctional shared service center, which is covering many functions of course, finance. There's also master data, information management, IT, logistics, but also the food industry specific processes. And that works really well. I think the key element of expansion was a good ecosystem and the cooperation with the local organizations, local suppliers, but also with the city hall, universities, and the whole ecosystem that is available in the country.
Thank you very much, Maciej, for this first information on Berikal about operations in Łódź. We stay in Łódź for a moment, and I would ask now Tomasz Leśniewski from Clariant, what in your case, what were the goals to be achieved by this shared service center? How did it work out? This is one question. And the second question, if we could go a step back, because before building a shared service center, there has to be the decision or a motivation to centralize certain functions, and because first you have to centralize before you can then decide on the location of the shared services. Could you elaborate on this a little bit?
Of course, really. So Clariant is a Swiss-based, globally leading specialty chemical company with revenue approximately 5 billion Swiss franc, and we operate in 60 countries worldwide. With this global footprint, same as business nature as such, we create some complexity. And whenever we talk about any order, any pushes, any transport, we talk about chemicals. Clariant Executive Committee in 2015 decided to establish Global Business Services Organization to achieve two particular objectives. First of all, we very much believed that thanks to centralization of group services within one global service organization, we create a foundation for further process standardization, harmonization, and transformation. We assumed that thanks to lean and plus automation, we make our processes robust and highly efficient. Second point, and second, I would say, motivation for us, we've been strongly convinced that this direction of having centralized services will allow us to reduce costs of service provisioning. And we estimated that at the end of the day, we can contribute positively to the EBITDA of the company in the range of 1 percentage point. We knew that to achieve our objectives, we need to bring many more processes to our delivery centers than just standard finance and accounting. That's also because of the size of the company. We are just having 15,000 people worldwide. That is why, since beginning of our journey, we focus on many different processes like procurement, like order management, like transport management, import, export activities, and of course they are coming on top of the standard finance and accounting activities. In which we managed to find right talent to provide all these services to our group, and having this I would say well-established center right now, we think about further expansion going forward. And at the end of the day, thanks to access to world-class talents, to access to the right technology on the market, we we've been able to successfully develop our lean culture within service organization. So now we, I would say, speak exactly the same language as our business unit colleagues. And we introduced also a number of automation solutions already in the organization. All of them bringing us or allowing us to achieve something like 5 to 7%, annual productivity increase since beginning we operate here. And this is also very much important for us because this is keeping, the initial business case still very much up to date. And of course, this is also allowing us to compensate, some cost increase, which is obviously happening also in Poland. What's also very, very important for us, for us it was very much important that when it comes to quality of service, we cannot to have any decrease. So quality is at least as high as it was in the past when been performed in different business units or service units, and of course in many areas we managed to exceed past performance significantly as well.
Thank you very much, Tomasz, for your first insight and also the interesting figures about productivity increase. Personally, I was very glad to hear that you consider to further enlarge your operations and invest in Łódź. For the moment, let's quit Łódź and go to Kraków, where Peter is waiting for us. In case of ABB is was for me interesting, of course, compared to the two other companies we just heard had a little introduction, that you operate in a different context because there are globally worldwide there are 5 global business centers. So you can be measured and benchmarked in terms of costs, speeds, quality, and other factors, I guess. Where is Kraków in this ranking?
Well, of course, I would have to say number 1, but I'm a little bit biased. Very happy to be here. So great question, Uli. So, I mean, this competitiveness is quite healthy. ABB is a conglomerate that's come together over the last 135 years. I mean, well known as an engineering pioneering company, going across different kind of boundaries when it comes to putting amazing products onto the market. But of course, we are very complex. We're very heavy. We know that. And when we decided to build our global business services, it was kind of apparent from a very early stage that we should do this with speed, but also take certain kind of considerations about not necessarily putting too much risk out there. Now, if you look at what my colleague was mentioning earlier, I can validate that Pavel was speaking very truly and proudly about ABB. That pride we also live with every day. But we kind of took advantage of existing locations. So we have a center in Tallinn, in Estonia. We have, of course, Krakow. We have Bangalore. And we leverage from an existing infrastructure in both Krakow, Bangalore, and then we go across to China and San Luis Potosi down in Mexico. So different sizes, serving different purposes, but it has a kind of a geographical pull-in from different parts of the world. Now, being active in 100 different countries, with 52 different ERP systems, I would say it's close to a miracle that we only have 5. So it's a great starting point. We lifted and shifted, and we have been kind of recognized recently for the speed of transfer of the work from those various locations. Now, back to your question around the competitiveness. I love competitiveness. I love it because it kind of gives you that cutting edge. It makes you excited to kind of engage with colleagues across different parts of the world and actually try and challenge yourself. Can we do things better? And it's not a cost competition. It's more, can we do things better for the company? And we have finance, we have IS, we have procurement, we have, let's say, HR, and many other kind of different services that we provide. And it's just flourishing through that competitiveness. It's not a question of whether or not we want to kind of move something from one place to the other. But if, we look at this and we see, what type of productivity is there, can we learn from each other, and then move towards this more standardized approach, and of course then kick in the automation that comes a little bit later in the journey.
Thank you very much, Peter. I think we will come back to this question of automation, because this has been mentioned by Tomasz as well before. But now let's do a second round, or start the second round, because Maciej mentioned, and I know this is one of the top goals for each organization, to attract and maintain talented people. So it's also something you mentioned, and the quest for talent. And I know that Barry Callebaut has cooperations with local universities in Łódź. And my question would be, or my request to you, if you could elaborate a little bit on how this cooperation looks like, and perhaps how this cooperation then translates into HR benefits you are looking for.
Sure, really. Of course, we are in a very good position because we produce chocolate, so and it's a premium chocolate, so it helps definitely. But in terms of the cooperation with the universities, I think when I look 20 years ago, how it was done, university was more, let's say, isolated organization, and the business was, of course, trying to make sure that they can take the talent that is graduating from the universities. Over the last 15-20 years, it changed dramatically, because we see examples where the business is actually participating in the whole education system, where the people from the business are actually giving the lectures, giving the classes during the regular studies. There is also a great openness which is coming from the universities. And just to give an example, we had 2 days ago, we had a meeting with the University of Łódź, where we were discussing actually what extra we can do. Of course, there's a lot of happening. There's a university job affairs. There are different projects that are happening at the university that the business can support. There are also many projects that are coming from the European Union angle. But still, we are saying that the business is changing. The needs on the labor market are changing, and we need to make sure that also the whole educational system is adjusted to that. So we are having a regular meetings. It's like a feedback loop. It's a feedback to business. What we can do better to make sure that we can attract a talent better, but at the same time, what the university can do to equip young people into the right competences, into the right skill set, so that they can enter the labor market when they finish the school. And I even would say they are joining the organization because there is before they graduate, there is a lot of internship programs where people can join the organization for a period of time, learn how the business is operating, what are the needs, what are the gaps that they see, and how they can fill in those gaps. And I see quite a lot of change that happened in the last years, where actually the university as an organization, the colleges are supporting that, and they are open for that feedback. And it's a regular platform where we meet all together, and of course Tomasz can probably tell about that as well, because he's also part of that group. But that cooperation between the organizations that we have in Łódź, but also with the local universities, with the city hall, that definitely is the mixture that gives the most benefits. And of course, we can talk about the attrition, we can talk about the salary pressure. It will always be there. Yeah, we cannot fight it. But if we have a really great employee value proposition, we are actually very much connected to the ecosystem that we have in town, and people can recognize the organization, recognize the values. They can really learn what the organization can offer and how they can develop in the organization already when they are during their studies. That definitely helps to create a very strong pool of potential candidates that can join the organization in the future.
Thank you very much, Maciej. I was glad to hear this, what you said about this cooperation between universities and private companies, which looks now, also as you said, totally different than 20 years ago, when there were different worlds apart, and now those worlds are getting closer with the benefit for both of them, as I understand. Before we just give the next question to Tomasz, I would like to ask you to ask also questions. You have this chat function on the right-hand side of your screen. At the bottom, there is a chat. There is a button called with the name "Ask Questions." Please ask questions, and we will try to transmit them all to our speakers. And if there is a question that would come up later, you can always contact the organizers of this meeting. I know that all speakers are very open to share their experiences also by email. So if you have any questions, please write us an email. We will transmit it to the speakers, and then we will e-connect you concerning this question and the answer. Okay, a moment before we talked about WUCH and this ecosystem between, among others, universities and private companies. Tomasz, you are also part of this ecosystem, and there is an interesting fact that I recalled about your services, about the character of your services you are providing. You told me that 90% of the services you provide in WUCH are so-called language services, so they are provided not in Polish but in other languages. How do you manage to find the right people for this?
That's right, Ori. So, in a nutshell, at the moment we established our GBS organization. We created 2 delivery centers, which is quite, I would say, common also set up in the industry. So we have one of our center located in Poland, which is also playing a role of a language hub. And we have second center located in Mumbai. So internally, we have also, I would say, clear regional split of between both centers. So India is very much focusing on English services only, because it's very difficult to provide any other languages out of India. They're serving primarily Asia and Pacific plus NORAM. When it comes to Poland, we're covering EMEA region, and we're covering also Latin America. So purely from the setup perspective, those 2 regions we're covering, they are very much broad when it comes to number of languages being used on daily basis. So today we provide our services out of which in 10 different languages, because this is more or less the need of the organization. When it comes to languages, I think that was already mentioned in the very first panel that first of all in Poland you have a great pool of talents available. So every year we talk about 300,000 plus colleagues leaving universities, and most of them speak English plus second language. So when it comes to all the European languages, it's pretty, I would say, easy to find right competencies on the market. We need to take also into account that language is just one of the competencies. It's very much important to find people speaking different languages and having also appropriate experience. So that profiles are broadly available on the market, also because of the fact that service industry in Poland is growing since 20 years. And at this point of time we have population of 350,000 people working in this industry. So this is giving you quite some I would say opportunity to select right people. Of course, there are still some languages which are a bit more difficult to find on the market. Like in our case, we provide a lot of services to Brazil, to find people speaking Brazilian Portuguese it's maybe not the easiest task. Nevertheless, even here we have some I would say solutions to face this challenge rightly. As Maciek also mentioned, what also helps pretty well, it's a strong collaboration between different market players. So this collaboration with universities is also allowing us to somehow, adjust the university curriculums that colleagues, students leaving universities, they are well prepared to start working in the service industry. So that's also, I would say, helping to have better profiles straight after the graduation.
Thank you, Tomasz. Tomek just mentioned the figure of 350,000 people working for the business services industry. Just to give you an idea of the dynamics of this industrial sector in Poland, if I'm not mistaken, in 2009 it was 50,000, and so you see now how fast this industry developed over the last 12, 13 years. Going to ABB, well, we heard a little bit, Peter, we heard a little bit about the history of ABB from your colleague Paweł Fabryczewski before, but perhaps it's worth recalling, because I think we have people that just came in now to watch this second panel. Why did ABB choose Kraków and not another Polish city to build the GBS, the Global Business Service Center? And a second question relates to COVID and the pandemic we are in now since a year. The unique location points that were very crucial in the old world or at the old times before the pandemic. Are they still valid in times of COVID? Because our times now are more characterized by home office, as we heard before from other speakers, and also the fact that more and more companies work in or with dislocated teams.
Mm-hmm. Sure thing. So a little bit of why Krakow. I would say why not? It's a fantastic city. And I got to meet Paweł here. So, no, I mean, we had already established ourselves in Poland quite some years ago. I mean, ABB is well known in the local markets. We have a very big kind of electrification, factories here, and business sector, as well as robotics, as well as process automation and motion. However, we had a technology center established back in 1997, and that started kind of, small with some software engineers and some scientists there, and that kind of flourished and grew within the city. And it's one of 7 we have globally today. So we kind of built strength on strength, several hundreds of people. And as Paweł described it, we got up to around 600 to 800 people at one stage back in 2008. And it was kind of a no-brainer for us, because we had already certain competencies here, we had some infrastructure, and it was a safe bet, right? So we're still kind of coming out of being a very conservative company in the past, although lots of transformation is quite rapid and quick. We still took some kind of cautious decisions. So we kind of built upon what we had. Now, we didn't have anything here when it comes to finance or when it comes to HR, so that was greenfield. But having the colleagues on the ground to help us kind of kickstart us was the right thing. And everyone's mentioned it, the universities are flourishing, lots of students graduating every year. We're not shy of talent. So that's one of the things that also was kind of a safe bet. You could go into a tier 2 or a tier 3 city, but then you would struggle when you're trying to set something up quite quickly. So we took that into account, and that's also one of the reasons we picked some of the other locations as well. Now, that kind of is why Krakow, and Krakow is now, gone from 1,000 people to 2,000 people. We have a growth rate around 7% last year. And I'm very proud and happy to say that we do more than just business services. We're also managing certain services directly for our internal businesses, such as quotation management, just to give you an example. So that's the first kind of answer to the first question. Secondly, I'm not so concerned. I think location is still very important. Of course, I'm got a picture behind me. I'm not actually sitting in the Swiss Alps right now. I wish I was, but look, we are in a pandemic situation. It's going on almost endlessly. I think we've learned to have a thick skin and to manage the expectations of the employees and to play it safe, because safety first. But the buildings and the locations and the excitement will come back. I think it was mentioned, in the previous panel by Martin that we are creatures of habit. I'm a very kind of up close and personal person. I love engaging with people. I'm actually been in the office myself every single day with probably 3 or 4 nods because I had a toothache or I had something else to deal with. But I'm here every day. The office is open, and I do see an increase in the number of people coming from time to time. Obviously, we have to keep an eye on the waves and make sure that we're consistent there. But I see it coming back, and I believe it will come back in a different shape and form. More collaboration centers, project-based. But let's face it, in the area of financial services, as an example, and HR, payroll, front office activities, confidentiality of documentation, closing the books, working together, this is something that we've managed to survive throughout this entire year. And we can be very proud of that, definitely. Going virtual almost overnight, but it will definitely come back in my eyes. And I will be encouraging it to come back. And I hope at one stage I'm going to have to probably stand back because there's so many people coming into the building. But we can always hope and dream. But like I said, we take it one step at a time.
Thank you, Peter. But let me just ask you, because for the time being, hopefully the new normality will start, let's say, in a close time, but for the time being we still have the pandemic situation. And how, for instance, or how have you organized the process of onboarding, which is quite crucial for all the companies in this sector, given the scale of operations?
Sure. So just to give you some facts and figures, we've onboarded more than 500 people in 2020, from March all the way up to the end of the year, and we're now up to close to 200 people since the beginning of this year. We do need to have people coming into the office. We have a very, very safe environment. We've reorganized the place in such a way that people, they can only feel safe. Once you leave when you go into the common areas, you have to wear the mask, and there's a one-way traffic system, and we have a close monitoring from a business continuity perspective. But I do firmly believe that it's important to see the employees when they've joined the company. And of course, technology can help us overcome this need to have people coming physically. But it's that first connect is so important. I still remember my first job 24 years ago. The look of the carpet, the smiles of the people on the in the room, and it's not so many people around. But do not take that away from people. It's 2 to 3 hours. They get their equipment, they sign the contract. We just look them in the eyes and make sure that they're happy to be with us. We give them a little bit of encouragement, and of course we send them on their way to be virtually onboarded from a functional perspective. But that connect is very important, and I have to say, I've done every single onboarding myself twice a month because I love meeting the people, and I want them to feel welcomed and, not to lose the sense of reality and belonging, because otherwise you could work for anybody. So standing there and talking about the purpose of the company, the values, the products, and then they leave with a smile on their face, and, we're better because of it.
Thank you very much, Peter, for this insights. Going back to Łódź, how does it, Maciek mentioned the ecosystem, which is very important, and the support of the local authorities. My question goes to Tomek now. Did you also get some support from local authorities when you opened this center? And perhaps even broader question, why do you need support from local authorities, or why is it important that the local authorities are aligned or are supporting the sector or the companies?
Okay, so the need of support, it depends very much how well you are, I would say, equipped internally to start operations in the service sector. So in our case, first of all, we have had some operations already in Łódź. So we just, I would say, build up and extend our operations by adding a shared service center. And nevertheless, whenever you are looking for some support from local authorities, I don't know how it works in all the cities in Poland. Nevertheless, investor's office in Łódź is one of the best. And what's very much important is that since the moment you commit to develop business in the city, you're immediately being provided with a lot of support from the city hall. So it starts with assigning to you an individual agent from the investor's office who is assisting you whenever you need any support. So what they can support you with. First of all, they can support you to establish a legal presence in the country, in the city. Second is they can support you to find the right place, that's right location for your shared service center, and then they're supporting you also to have or to become part of the service network in the city, and also connect you with some other colleagues who can support you with some very much specific things. Of course, the support. For instance, we also got at the early stage, and we also getting constantly from the city is support with recruitment processes. So they can, I would say, support you to place your offers in a different places. And for instance, as an ongoing support, there is a dialogue on how further city can support you to grow your business and to keep your business running well in the city. So there's a lot of, I would say, programs with financial support being offered as well. So that's also very much important when you take decision about placing your organization in a specific city. And as we also discussed, cities also very much participating in the dialogue between business and universities, for instance. So there's a lot of, I would say, initiatives being very much taken care by them, and this is also creating a lot of value for us.
Thank you very much, Tomek. I've got a question from the floor. The question to Maciek. How would you? What is for you the advantage of building an own shared service center, Barrycal about shared services, versus cooperation with a Polish supplier or with a supplier from another company? Well, it's a little bit the question. Would go to the headquarters. Why did they want to build an own shared service center? They could have outsourced services to companies that do this kind of services for them.
Of course, you can always do it, but when you look at the Barrycal about, we don't have such a scale like, for example, Peter was talking about in ABB, where he has huge operations. We can say we have 300 employees, 300 plus employees here in Łódź. But when you zoom in really into that operations, you will see that there is a lot of teams doing different stuff. So we don't have like a scalable, huge operations, which you could say, okay, let's give it to the outsourcing partner who can do that for us from India, Guatemala, or whatever the location might be. And for us, there is also the other element, which there's a lot that needs to be changed in our processes, the way how we operate, the way how the business keeps changing, and we want to make sure it stay close within us, so that we can have that agility. We can have a flexibility, and whenever there is there is a need to change. There's just a one call to Łódź. You don't need to sign the new contract and negotiate for a 6 months with your BPO provider. But of course, there are also organizations which are much bigger. And when you look at the industry in the region, not only in Poland but in the region, there is a lot of BPO players who supports those kind of services, also in Łódź, but also in Krakow. But also in the other cities. But our decision was to keep it captive. We want to keep it captive. We want to keep it close to the business. We want to make sure it's not actually an isolated ecosystem, but it's part of the teams, just an extended team that is sitting in the different location.
Thank you, Maciek. I've got another question which goes to Peter. You mentioned the talents that you were able to attract in Krakow at your center. Is there something like, or from the point of view of whole ABB, is there something like a tunnel pool strategy, meaning that the best people from your team, they have the chance to move to Zurich or China or wherever else? Is there an exchange?
No, you see, I'm very selfish. I keep them all for myself. Of course not. I mean, there's definitely an exchange. I myself, I'm Irish. I worked for ABB for 15 years now. I started in the Benelux, running the local shared service center, which was in 36 different locations across the globe for finance. And then from there, I made my way to Zurich. 6 months became 6 years as a trainee. As an intern, and then landed here in Poland 2.5 years ago. So I always use myself as an example because if you have the right kind of mindset and you work on yourself and with your colleagues, the teamship, I think everything is possible. And we got this global trainee program in ABB. In fact, we have one, knock on wood, arriving in Krakow come April. It's normally kind of a very prestigious training, which would go to the business area CFOs or to the controlling community, in the corporate level. But it's great to see that that's now coming back down into the operational units, such as here in Krakow. So I'm very proud of that. To answer specifically your question, we have massive rotation within the organization itself. Actually, our HR business partner, it's a lady. She's coming from India, and she came from ABB Dubai. So she's based here, and she has a global role. One of the colleagues who built up the finance center before I came in was coming from the Czech Republic. We had one looking after, let's say, our order to cash team, which was a lady coming from Germany who has. Maybe for her, fantastic, 38 years experience with the company. So, we cherish the fact that there's a lot of longevity within the company. Of course, the world's changed and people staying for 30, 40 years, that's probably not going to be the case anymore. But we build upon that foundation, and I can give you tons of examples. We could be here till Christmas with all the exciting kind of internal transfers that we had. And just to cut it very short, we do have and encourage, and I'm a big promoter of having people kind of exchange and working from different parts of the world in the different centers and then making their career step into the business afterwards. So I can't say more than that.
Thank you, Peter. And the last question, it came in when Maciek was talking, so I think it goes to you, Maciek. How do you see Poland as an IT hub compared to Spain or Portugal? What is the strategic? Is there a strategic advantage, or are there key differentiations?
Difficult question. But when you look at IT resources and IT competences and capabilities, definitely there is a big hunger on the Polish market right now. But the good thing, and at least I'm talking to the colleagues from the other centers, we see that there is also a huge pool of resources which are coming from the Ukraine. Ukraine as a let's say post-Soviet Union country from this block. Most of the technical, let's say, technical IT related universities were located in Kyiv, Lviv in Ukraine, and there is a lot of people coming from that region. Of course, that's not a part of European Union, but we see also a certain actions that are taken by the local and the federal government in Poland to allow people to freely move to Poland and have a, let's say, they still need a work permit, but of course they can easily get it. So that's definitely supports the whole hunger that we have on the market for the let's say IT resources. But of course the main hubs I see today in Wrocław, in Katowice, but also the other cities are also building those capabilities. And even if you look at Łódź, we see there is quite a lot of new young people coming from the region. And like Peter mentioned, that people from Czech Republic, from Ukraine, from Belarus, who are deciding to locate themselves in the city of Łódź because they can easily find a job. They can find a job easily, but at the same time, there's a lot of development opportunities because the businesses are growing, or the new foreign investments are coming to town. So that's definitely a trend.
Thank you very much.
So we are stealing. So Uli, we are stealing with pride from the other regions. So.
I think it's very important. Unfortunately, we have to close or we have to finish this panel because our time is up. We could speak much longer, but I'm very glad that there was this question which allowed you to tell a little bit about the value and the importance of migration and especially immigration. Immigration also from Eastern countries, especially from the Ukraine, which is of benefit, of course, which is a big benefit, of course, for Poland and the whole industry. So, ladies and gentlemen, our time is up now for this second panel. Very many thanks to the speakers, to our panelists, Peter Michał, Maciej Kulbat, and Tomasz Leśniewski. If we have answers or questions coming in, we will send them, of course, to you to get an answer and to bring you in contact with the person asking the questions. Many thanks and see you soon. Dzień dobry Państwu, grüezi miteinander, bonjour à tous, welcome back to the webinar about nearshoring to Poland. We are having now in a minute, we will start with the third panel. Before we had the two panels before were about, the first panel was focusing on Poland as a nearshoring location. Then in the second panel we elaborated together with the speakers on the benefits of building an own shared service center in Poland. And now in this panel we have a slightly different perspectives. We will talk about the nearshoring cooperation with Polish suppliers or external entities. And of course there is this broader question about nearshoring with outsourcing partners in general. And I'm very happy to introduce you, I see all of you have made it to introduce you the speakers who will talk about this. So I will start with Luis Pachas-Pardo. Luis is head of procurement Switzerland and Italy for Holcim Schweiz AG. Then we have Ben Gregg. Ben Gregg is head of IT delivery at KPMG Switzerland. Ben actually is in Zurich, where he works. And then we have, last but not least, Ryszard Pytko. Ryszard Pytko is Chief Commercial Officer at SII Poland, which is the partner of this webinar, which is being organized by the Polish Swiss Chamber of Commerce and SII Poland. And I would like to give the first question to Luis, because I know that Holcim decided to look for a nearshoring partner in a RPA project. obviously you managed to find the right partner. That's why you are now a speaker at this webinar. But what advice would you give to companies that are the beginning of the process, or that don't know yet if they want to engage in this or not, and if yes, what they should, what challenges are in waiting for them?
Of course, thank you very much, Uli, for the invitation, first of all, for this webinar regarding nearshoring to Poland. So I'm very happy, first of all, to share my experience regarding engaging with Polish suppliers. But let me start first, I think, with these two countries, Switzerland and Poland. So we have to mention as well that there are, of course, certain difference, of course, on the population, on the size, on the time that it takes me to go to one place to the other one. And I would like to mention one regarding the price of a Big Mac. Do you know the price of a Big Mac in Poland is $3 and in Switzerland is around $7.50? That's a big difference. Nevertheless, it is the same product. So for me, and as per my experience, the two countries, and more general now and more precise, these two companies actually were complementary for this project. Why complementary? As you know, in Holcim, what we have, our focus is very strong in our commitment with sustainability, customer satisfaction, and of course, process excellence. On the other side, SII Poland, they had a very strong focus on the flexibility, on the energy, on the dynamism, and experience on this field, which was very important for us. As you mentioned correctly, in 2018, we started with SII regarding the project on robotics, process automation. But before that, there were jobs to be done from our side. And here are the tips from my side regarding engaging with Polish suppliers. The first thing that we did is, together with our team, we went through different webinars, meetings, workshops in order to understand, first of all, robotic process automation. So our target was to understand if we really need this and what is about robotic process automation, and if it will increase our efficiency in our organization. After that, what we did is we decided, yes, this is the right thing to do, and we started to create our framework. And the framework, what we did as a company is, first of all, our Holcim standards that has to be transferred to our Polish supplier, in this case with SII, and as well to create our scope of work, which was very well defined in order to make this process smoother. So the first thing that I can mention is create a framework, know what you want. The second thing that I can say is regarding stakeholder management, upstream, downstream, internal and external. Why? Because you will be challenged as well with your decisions in order to see if this is the right thing to do for the organization, and as well to ensure that supplier and our team in Holcim are all running in the same direction. And the last thing that I have to mention is the rigorous market research, because this is very important for us in order to engage with a supplier. Now, these three things done, then we engage with possible suppliers, and one of them was SII. And my first impact when I have the meeting, it was, oh, this supplier can do the thing and can deliver it. The pilot mate was done very successful. Then they did the RPA, the implementation, and now we are putting it up as well in other processes.
Thank you very much, Luis, for this interesting insight in the process you went through. I think we will come back to some of the points later. Also, in the context of this stakeholder management you mentioned, this was very interesting for me. But let's go to the second speaker, to Ben. So like Holcim, also KPMG collaborates with a Polish nearshoring supplier, and obviously your supplier matches the things you were looking for. I mean, especially it's the question of the capabilities and then the capacities that were needed in your project. But my question is more fundamental. Why did you decide to buy competences instead of building them up, because there are pros and cons.
For sure. That's a great question. So let me give you a little bit of a background where we're coming from, and hopefully that can give also the dimension why we took certain decisions. So the first one is we are running an intensive digital transformation program within KPMG Switzerland. I believe many companies in this day and age are doing so for different reasons, right? And of course, we wanted to accelerate as much as possible without losing any quality. And in doing so, I think that was the natural answer to your question, right? It's not that easy to build competences in-house. And by the way, we do keep building competences in-house. However, to build it at a level to be prepared to face a digital transformation at a fast pace, of course, it's not going to be that easy. So that is where nearshoring came into play, right? And we did quite some research there, and we did our homework properly. I agree also with Luis that it's very important to know what you want, right? Because that cuts down the time of analysis and also of I would say recursive questions within the organization, and then you can go straight to the target, right? And basically, what we wanted to do is to scale up fast, to start delivering also fast, and I mean. I will not say anything new. The Swiss market faces quite some challenges from an IT perspective, from a capability and capacity perspective. What do I mean by that? It's not that there are not capable people, it's just that there aren't enough of them, right? And again, the capacity is an issue, right? Whether it is onshore or even sometimes that you want to buy some services in the nearshore. And of course, there is the other question of technology. So technology for us, it goes very fast. And you will notice that sometimes some technology competencies are developed in other countries, and maybe they have not been fully matured in your own country, or vice versa. So we wanted to be in a position where we can, let's call it like this, we can choose in a very positive way, right? I mean, what we're running is running very, very well, in my opinion. And since inception, since we started this, I would not even call it cooperation. The people I work with, I stress a lot the point of partnership. So I never wanted a vendor. I wanted a partner. And this is very important for us and how we see the partner and how we integrate that partner within our organization, within our IT organization. So just to give you a quick thing, statistic, since 2018 till now, I think we doubled, even more than doubled, the services that we are getting out of our Polish partner. So yeah, that's quite something, I would say.
Thank you very much, Ben. And I think this is also something to be remembered, because just the last thing you said, that partnership, you wanted a partner and not a vendor. So because a partnership, as I understood, includes a long-lasting perspective, not just a collaboration which can end fast.
That's correct. That's what we were looking for, and we are lucky to have it. We were part of it, by the way.
Okay, thank you. So let's now go to the third speaker we are having now, to Ryszard Pytko. I mean, you are a sales director of one of Poland's leading IT outsourcing or nearsourcing companies.
That's right.
And of course, you're selling the services of your company. This is obvious, but in doing so, you also have to sell Poland as a location where these services are being provided. And let me ask you frankly, why a Swiss company should take into account a Polish partner or supplier? I mean, there are many others around in Europe or worldwide.
Sure. Thank you for this question, and hello everybody. Well, it's difficult to say something original because a lot of good things about Poland have been said already during these discussions. But I will do my best. Poland has evolved in a spectacular way over last decades. So it's become a major European country with stable economic and political situation. So we are a member of NATO, EU. It's safe over here. So maybe we could even call Poland as outsourcing safe haven. And then we should go to location. So we are close. We are 2 hours away from Zurich, and we are situated in the center of Europe. There are also some beautiful sites you can visit during weekend when you come to check out your vendor on Friday weekend and go to see the lakes, mountains, or the sea. So everything is here. The most important issue about Poland and the reason why companies should cooperate with Polish vendors is availability of a resource pool. Skilled specialists at competitive prices. So just to give you some numbers, some of them were said already, but I will repeat some of them. Around 40% of Polish society has higher education. I'm talking about the part of society between 20 and 40 years old. Over a million, I think 1.2 million students are studying at universities every year. Hundreds, thousands of them, maybe 400,000 this year, will graduate and enter work market. And touching more technical issues, there are 200,000 technical developers in place over here. So it's like 30% of all technical development population in all Central and Eastern Europe. Simply speaking, the skill is here. The business has been evolving for years now, so a lot of BPO and shared service companies cooperate with university, and they also have their contribution to teaching programs, and so more and more educated graduates enter the market every year. We have to touch quality. So there are various rankings, top coder rank, hacker rank. Anyhow, in all of those, Polish engineers are ranked top third or fourth place in the world. So we have the best engineers you can think of. And also Poland itself is ranked as a first country in Europe to place your outsourcing services at. So that's about rankings. And two more things. I like to say investment has been done. And what I mean by that is that the offshoring or nearshoring business has been developing in this country since middle 90s. Some American companies, Sabre, Delphi, or Capgemini installed their offices. And so nevertheless, it's not just juniors, but we also have some experienced managers around working for different companies. So also the knowledge about remote teams, knowledge transfer, how to cooperate with foreign companies, everything is in this country. You don't need to import it. And also, just to finish, what I have to say is, Polish government, we have a lot of programs like economic zones, grants for investments, tax support, support for R&D operations. So the government also sees the opportunity and subsidizes the industry. So, thank you. Strongly recommend Poland.
Thank you, Richard. I can confirm that it's safe and it's beautiful here. That's true. But thank you especially for the overview you gave and figures concerning the IT labor market in Poland. But now let's go back to the second round. And before I ask the next question to Luis, I would like to ask all participants to think about questions you would like to have answered now in this panel. Please send us the questions you have on the right-hand side. At the bottom of your screen, you have a chat function. It's called Ask Questions, and this is the way you can ask questions to our experts and practitioners. Luis, coming back to you. You mentioned before the stakeholder management, which is very important in the process of building up and then implementing a relation with a nearshoring partner. I mean, as far as I hear also from other companies, the decision to go for nearshoring, as well as every kind of shoring, is usually accompanied by fear of the team that the company may cut people, because obviously the cost benefit is one of the major benefits, not the only, but one of the major benefits when you want to nearshore as a company. And how did you confront this fear in your organization? And was your change management successful? Because I think this is about change management, what you described before.
Thank you, Yuri, for this question. I think this is a very important question, because actually what we discussed in the previous question, or in the first question, was more a project management approach. In this question is more on the leadership skills, right? And we're talking about stakeholder management. So first of all, I'm a truly believer that effective communication is one of the key topics in order to ensure that change management is done correctly. Nevertheless, I have personally, as a leader as well, I need to ensure 3 other things in order that this change goes in the good direction. So the first one is to create a vision. First of all, I need to explain upstream and downstream what are the benefits of the project. What are the benefits to do it with SII Poland, and bring as well the team members into the same road. The second one should be, for me, develop the followership. Why? Because my team and other cross-functional teams will work together in the same direction. And the last one would be to implement this vision. So let me tell you how we manage it in our case. So as you mentioned correctly, I think that in any case of change management, there will be always fear. It's an emotion that you cannot avoid, and it is important that you manage it very carefully. So as mentioned it before, our companies, Holcim and SII Poland, we are complementing each other. So this message has to go actually as well to our teams, saying SII is bringing the agility, the dynamism, the energy, and the knowledge already, and the experience on this process. We are bringing the structure, we are bringing the process excellence as well, and everybody was needed for this success. So I am very open with my team and with all the teams, and I have been always mentioning why we are doing this, because the aim is to improve our efficiencies in processes, and as well that my team is actually focusing more in other key topics rather than what we were doing before. So I can say yes, that the change management was successfully implemented. I am sure as well that my team is happy with the results. That's what I mentioned it, that we are scaling it up now. And as well, I'm sure that the SII team is happy with the results. Thank you.
Thank you, Luis. My next question goes to Ben, and relating to what you said before, you talked about partnership, which is important for you. And I learned from you when we met some weeks before that, when starting the cooperation with your Polish nearshoring partner, you went to Poland to understand the Polish culture, how they work, what is important for them. Well, I understand why you did that, but perhaps you could just rephrase it again, why you did that, why this was important for you. And then, of course, an interesting question is, what did you expect before coming to Poland, and And what were your impressions after this visit, or after starting this collaboration?
Thanks. So basically, I did specifically that because I wanted to make sure that both sides are understanding each other at multiple levels, right? At a commercial level, at a business level, at a technical level, also, and most importantly, at a human level. So for me, it was quite important to understand the other side of the bridge, you know, and to see how we can make things work better for both of us, for both sides, right? As I said earlier, my intention was always to build a partnership, and a partnership is not a one direction. It takes two to believe even more than two, but in this case, it's two sides, right? And I still remember when we went there, and we had one day full of meetings. We prepared our stuff. I also asked our partner to prepare some stuff, and then we had multiple brainstorming sessions on different levels for me to understand, to learn. And for me, it was a great learning experience. And when I went back, I even fine-tuned together with the team how we should work with our Polish partner. And in my opinion, it delivered the benefits. So the fine-tunings actually made things flow easier and also avoid extra costs or misunderstandings and so on and so forth, right? So I also believe in high-performance teams, right? And I made it very clear to our partner that we want to go in that direction. And I can tell you that this message was not only listened, but it was also implemented on their side. And yes, being clear and transparent helps. And I also believe that, you know, like if you're in partnership, if we made mistakes, we say it. And I think we are in a position where we have a very transparent relationship with our partner, where sometimes we often say, okay, sorry, that didn't work very well from our side. And then the other side says, yeah, but we could have also improved or detected it earlier. So it's really a fantastic way how things are working. And I truly believe that it's great, and I hope it stays the same. But of course, as I said earlier, you have to invest in the relationship, in the partnership to remain the same. To answer your second question is, my expectations were none. Not because of anything wrong it's just because I always try to approach a situation without possible biases, right? Whether positive or negative biases. And so my expectation was like, let's see what this, let's say, meeting, it was a long meeting, gives us. And afterwards, after I left Poland and went back to Switzerland, I can say I found people who are open, people who are very knowledgeable in what they do. They are also approachable and to a good degree, to a major degree, adaptable and also motivated. So that's what I found, and that also still remains valid to this very day with our experience with our partner. Maybe one small thing that I also highlighted to you is that maybe they were not so critical in our regards to start with. And of course, I do understand the politeness, and I think that's a good way, right? However, I was looking for truth, and it took me quite some time to tell them, look, do not be afraid to tell us what can go wrong, because I want to avoid such things. So that is maybe a lesson. It's not a bad lesson or anything negative about it. It's just sometimes I found the Polish to be extra polite, and sometimes you have to dig a little bit deeper. But again, it's you find it also in other cultures, so nothing wrong.
Thank you very much, Ben. I'm glad you mentioned also this point, which where we touch cultural differences. Yes, there is a cultural difference here, but obviously you detected it, and you know then how to work with it in order to achieve the bigger goals. Thank you very much. Ryszard, concerning, before you had a lot of numbers about the IT labor market in Poland, and I would like to challenge you because I know some experts, and they predict that in 10 or 50 years in Poland, where we have now a boom of this business process outsourcing or this shared service centers, and those experts, they predict that in 10, 15 years the sector will come to an end and will move to other countries as the wages keep increasing much faster. At least that was at much faster pace than in Western Europe. And this is one thing. And the second point is that there is, even in Poland, there is a limited number of IT developers or IT engineers. But still, the outsourcing sector in Poland seems to be stronger than ever. How do those perspectives can be put together? Or could you elaborate on this, on the future, 10 years, 15 years? I know it's difficult, but let's try it.
Okay. So thank you for the question. It's extremely important question. Actually it brings my memories back, because 10 years ago when I started to work for the sector, actually I was asked the same question, and managers with whom I've been working with, they were saying, okay, so the prices are going up so fast. I mean, how long you guys are going to stay competitive? 2 years after, or three, I think around 2013 or 12, I don't remember well, there was this Aspire organization organized a conference called How Far Can We Grow? So actually the issue you just mentioned is present in our minds all the time. Now, to be serious, my view on the issue is that yes, it is a risk. Of course, prices are going up, and I don't want Poland to stop being competitive. However, on the other hand, we have to know that, prices, faster, slower, but they are increasing worldwide, and there is huge demand for technology, so it's normal. And Poland still remains with its unique selling points. We have talked a lot today. So I think I would be optimistic about costs in the long term. Still, the labor law is pretty flexible over here, and it will be. Still, we are close, etc., safe, everything. So, another thing is that outsourcing companies that are present and have been present in Poland for many years are aware, see what's happening, and they don't want to lose business. And they are doing magic. So for instance, I'm going to give you some examples. At SII, we organize various courses that allow people to change their careers. So we actually create testers, we create Java developers. I even heard situations that there were some former police officers that took some courses and they became IT testers. Things like that happen. We cooperate with universities. We engage students for internships, and they have their internships with us. They can become testers or developers or analysts. They can work. They get to work as we call it shadow workers. So whenever we have a service for a client, so we have experienced experts working, doing some great, interesting things. So they very often have a shadow worker, a junior that's absorbing the knowledge, that's watching what the expert is doing. Now there is a lot of value added, so business continuity. So this expert becomes then this junior becomes an expert faster, because he sees the work doing hands-on. And then we can scale up faster. Now we have all sorts of recommendation programs. We invest millions in recruitment, so we search for the engineers. Also, we bring them from other countries like Ukraine, that was mentioned before, but also Belarus, also Turkey. Some years ago, we had a lot of engineers from Brazil. The way to address the issue is to set up offices in smaller towns, less known, tier 2 cities like Bydgoszcz, which is not a smaller town, but it's not as famous as Krakow. Sorry, Maciek. Kielce, I don't know. There are many regions in Poland, smaller towns with great, phenomenal people, universities, and talent available. So, this is basically how we try to address the issue and fight it, and I'm very optimistic about the future. Now, what else can I say about the prices? Actually, throughout the years, there's more experience over here, so price-quality ratio remains on a great level. And also, as we speak about why the industry is thriving, also COVID helps. And that's true, because 2 years ago, I think a lot of Swiss companies would say, no, I don't want offshoring. I would like to have my engineers or workers working with me at my office. Now that we are all working remotely, it doesn't really matter if somebody is working from the flat 2 kilometers away or 700 kilometers away. So it boosts the industry also in Poland, and the world needs technology. So thank you. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Richard. Of course, it's very difficult to predict the future, what will be in 10, 15 years. But of course, thank you for the arguments and you believe that Poland and the sector, the industry, can still go fast and far. Now I see that we got a question. Richard, I'm afraid this question goes to you, so you have almost no break now. The question is,
okay.
Are there any government grants and incentives that may make specific cities more favorable for investments? Of course, that's a little bit the perspective that we had more in the second panel, but still, I'm sure you can elaborate on this.
Well, I'm not sure about the present. I would have to go into details and ask somebody from the financial department. But a few years ago, we have gotten a grant from EU that allowed us to open a shared service center in Lublin. So there are also R&D grants, but I don't know if they are combined with the locations or more about what the companies are doing. So I'm not able to answer the question in the very detail for the moment.
I would like to ask a question to you, to Luis and Ben, because I mean, in both your cases, this cooperation worked out very well, and you touched upon different points, how the process looked like, what was important for you. But still, I think there is always, when you partner with somebody else, there is a certain risk, because I mean you share knowledge that you have built over in many years. I mean, it's knowledge about the way you do business, and it's sure also to a certain part technological knowledge. So the question is, you must have made also a risk assessment, and you must have discussed your plans with the management board. What was crucial in this process of talking about risks that you may face? I don't know who wants to.
From my side, the first thing. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
You hear me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So from my side, we started very clear with the risk management approach. We make everything every time that we contract with somebody, we go in that direction. I was very clear as well when we found the right partner, in this case SII, what are our requirements in terms of data ownership, data collection, etc. So it was all clear from our side and SII how we are going to manage this situation. And definitely as well, when we communicate this to our board, and that's what I mentioned, the stakeholder management upstream, we give them as well what we have been doing with them, with our partner, in order to ensure that there is not a risky situation. So yes, this is part of the process, and it was very much well accepted by SII, which give us as well the support on that direction.
So from my side, the risk assessment actually is happening on multiple levels. It's happening also at distinct points within the whole process. What do I mean by that? It's happening before we even engage with the partners, because we are assessing the geographical location, which in this case, it's clearly a positive result. So then, of course, we are assessing the different partners that we were looking into, right? So, and afterwards, when we finally settled for our partner, our current partner, then we started the active risk management with them on different levels. Again, it is data sharing, data ownership. It is also process ownership, also intellectual property, and so on and so forth, right? So risk is a multifaceted situation, right, or environment. And it could also be capacity risk. This we also looked into. You know, if let's say we have a situation where 2, 3, 4, maybe 10 people leave the environment that we created on our partner's side, will that impact us? And how that will impact us, and for how long? So these risk assessments, they were done at the beginning, in between, also when we engaged, and they are still being done as we speak. So we review our risks as we go along. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ben. Please ask questions. I will be happy to transmit them to you, to give to you the question. But for the time being, I have another question which goes to Richard. When you could you give us, let's say, a global view? What kind of challenges or problems companies have when you get in touch with them? What do they want to have solved? I mean, this picture is sure complex, but what are the main areas that Swiss companies or in general foreign companies are looking for in Poland?
Right. Okay. So, well, basically, there are various reasons why somebody would look for offshoring services, but there is one common, and actually, it's the most common one. It's lack of resources at reasonable prices. So this is actually usually the main reason we hear that is to be the problem that is to be solved. And there are many concerns when we go to details. Yes, so our future clients, our partners are often asking us, okay, so I'm looking for resources. I know that Poland is a great destination, but then what's the time to market? So how fast are you going to build those teams? Is the skill set right? Will the skills be adequate to what am I looking for? The language level. How are you going to assure the business continuity? And I'm not just talking about the team itself, but also the company, because it is crucial when they are looking for a vendor that this company shall be stable financially. So when crisis comes, and crisis happen, this vendor shall disappear the last. So great to have a company that's profitable, scale is right, and has no debts. So infrastructure is important, for example. However, we are going to be connected via VPN, hardware or software VPN. Maybe our partner would like to have a dedicated laboratory. So the concerns are if their vendor is able to do such investments and provide them with such things. So also knowledge transfer is going to look. We have to pay for it. What's the control of my teams? I mean, will I pay for effect? So for story points or functional points or just for time of the team. So there are many concerns that happen. I'm always happy during the meetings to answer them all, because I know that we are comfortable in just making those concerns disappear as SII. The list is pretty much what I have mentioned.
Thank you very much, Ryszard. I'm afraid our time is up, and we will not be able to ask you all the questions that we got. So thank you very much to Ryszard, to Luis, and to Ben for being with us, for sharing your experiences. Thank you for attending. All the best, and keep safe and healthy.